All right, you are very welcome along to our weekend preview of what's going to happen on Sunday in the Super 8s. If you're looking for our preview of Dublin against Tyrone, we did that last night with Nathan looking back on the Battle of Omagh. There's a good half hour available for you on all of our social channels, youtube.com/off the ball. If you hit subscribe on that one, you'll get notification anytime we do some good stuff, but that's where the full half hour of that one is. And of course, you can always get our stuff on offtheball.com. Now, we are previewing Kildare against Galway. That one throws in at 2 o'clock on Newbridge on Sunday. At 4 o'clock in Clonus, it's Monaghan against Kerry. The forecast is that it's going to be hot and humid but dry in both venues. 22-24 degrees is the predicted temperature between 2 and 6 o'clock in the evening. So no rain this weekend. To help us preview these games, I'm delighted to say we've got Michael Meehan and Dara O'Cinneide with us. Gentlemen, you're both very welcome. Michael, if I can start with you. We're in the unusual situation of everything absolutely going to plan for Galway. It's been a while since everything has been so good. So there must be a real sense of confidence coursing through everybody involved with Galway football.
Yeah, I'm laughing here because it's going to plan. My 3-year-old has joined me here, so I hope she doesn't want to contribute too much to the discussion. But yeah, last weekend was major for them in terms of where this team is going and what they want to do. First win in Croke Park since 2001, All-Ireland final, and the first win over Kerry in 53 years. So it's something special that they, a couple of monkeys were taken care of there, and it just should give them that little bit more energy. Coming from where they have in the league, there was a lot of talk and quite a successful league to a point, and. A lot of people would have felt that okay, there's good signs here, but would have been kind of holding off, for the summer to see what would happen in terms of championship. Could they carry that form into the championship? And I suppose Connacht's is kind of taken on its own merits because they've had success there over the last few years, whereas it's really at the All Ireland stage that people wanted to see progress, and I think we started to see a little bit of progress, last weekend in that regard.
Yeah, and I guess the big thing is that actually you didn't really play to your full potential and were still in complete control for the entire duration of the game. You played brilliantly by the standards of getting rid of those monkeys off the back, as you said. But at the same time, the best part about it is that there's huge room for progress as well.
I think so as well. Yeah, definitely. You looked at that game and, just looking at Galway, I suppose, I felt that it was a game that they could have, which is unusual to say against Kerry, but they could have been much more comfortable, much more ahead and much more in control than they actually were. And there was stages in it where I was kind of saying, if Kerry kick on here now, we're going to be in trouble because we didn't take our chances. But they dominated a lot of the play and, played it on their terms. And I think that's what really helped them. Galway were allowed to do what we've seen them do through, since, for a long time now. And they're comfortable in that environment. And it wasn't always the most easy on the eye, but they got to take great kind of, it's just, I suppose, a vote of confidence for what they've been doing, that they could get into Croke Park and finally, you put a performance together, a winning performance, maybe not a top-class performance, but a winning performance. So yeah, that's really has to be pleasing for the group, and I think it's just going to feed into maybe a confidence that they can do what they've been trying to do and doing through the league in Croke Park, and that's I suppose, I know this weekend maybe the next couple of games are outside of Croke Park, but if they're looking beyond that, they have a bit of form there now, which is we haven't been able to say that in a long time.
Well, after that win, there's a good chance they might be the number one seeds coming out of that group. Dara, the fallout in Kerry has been feverish. I think it's fair to say that, questioning the manhood of several of the individual players in some instances. I don't remember as vitriolic or as deep a response to a defeat by a team that's still in the championship and still could turn things around this week.
I'm going back 9 years, really. 2009 was the last time I remember something similar. And obviously, as a Kerry man, I'm sure a lot of Kerry people are hoping as well that there'll be something similar, a reaction to that. But it was severe in 2009 as well. They were going through the back door and playing just about adequately against Longford and Sligo. And I remember even travelling up to Tullamore. Kerry were drawn against Antrim in the last of the backdoor games before they headed into Croke Park for that famous game with Dublin in the quarter-final. And I think Kerry supporters sensed it that day in Tullamore as well, that the team needed a lift. It was the only time I'd ever seen it. I was finished playing for 3 years at that stage with Kerry, and I haven't seen it since either, where the Kerry supporters actually got behind the team in the warm-up. And I think the players in the field, and speaking to some of them since about it, they did sense that, that there was a genuine element to their support, and that it was a much-needed shot in the arm at the time. Now, they didn't perform that well against Antrim, and certainly not well enough to install them as favourites against Dublin, but that's 9 years ago, and there was a lot of experience in that group. This is a different group. Some of them would have won All-Ireland in 2014. But I suppose famously, the headline acts on the team going into last Sunday would have been the younger players. And I suppose in hindsight, it might have been a bit much to expect them to perform or to carry the can more so. And you were talking about people questioning manhood. I'm sure you're referring to Dara's article during the week in the paper. Some of it was bang on the money. That kind of reaction needs to come, that kind of leadership needs to come from players in a particular age group. And I think that's probably the biggest indictment of Kerry's performance last Sunday, was the fact that David Clifford seemed to play so well. He's a fantastic footballer, but that some of the older members of the team didn't push on either and didn't make the right decisions at the right time. And as well as that, I suppose blame has been scattered and spread across the board, sideline and on the pitch. And even into the terraces, we haven't traditionally in Kerry been that good at supporting our teams at this stage of the year. It's all new to us as well this year, no more than any other county. And there is a huge amount of questioning and introspection going on this week, and there is a backlash expected Sunday. Whether or not it comes is another question entirely, but I'm sure Monaghan are prepared for some form of a backlash.
Is the backlash going to be a purely emotional thing, or will it also be in terms of a change in outlook and attitude? Because it seemed like, reading some of the analysis, and Colin Cooper said the team seemed a little bit confused about what they were trying to do. In particular, Crowley's told to push forward after 20 minutes, but actually that clearly wasn't the game plan going into it, or if it was miscommunicated. So is that backlash really about understanding what the style that the team are trying to espouse is supposed to be?
You'd imagine some of it would be emotional, but that's going to be absolutely pointless on Sunday. I mean, they're going to have to go into the game on Sunday with a very clear plan. They're going to have to learn the lessons of last Sunday. You mentioned Peter Crowley. I'm sure that video has been poured over a good number of times in the last 5 days. And, questions have been asked in closed rooms, inside in hotel rooms and inside in dressing rooms. I'm sure, what were you doing there and what we instructed you to do? They might. I'm not privy to conversations that go on within there, but I would imagine they're the conversations that are happening. Because certainly I don't think any player on the Kerry team, the last can point to, to a decent performance apart from, let's say, David Clifford. Everybody else, I'm sure, can improve. And, I'm sure management will hold their hands up and say, listen, we might have got this wrong. It was a surprise to, casual observers like myself that, let's say, the Mayo performance last year, where Thomas Sullivan was implied as a sweeper out of the blue, that Peter Crowley was implied as a sweeper this time, because it did concede the kick-outs in a very big way to the Galway. And, that was just one of the things. There's a lot of questions being asked why wasn't Kieran Donaghy introduced at all, or earlier in some cases. The substitutions didn't have the desired impact either, and they're questions that only, I suppose, management and players can answer for themselves. So the backlash needs to be focused as well. It can't be all this kind of running around madness saying it's going to be an atonement or a redemption of any description on Sunday. Monaghan are well prepared, I'm sure, for that. And they'll have their homework done on Kerry. But Kerry supporters will be expecting to see some form of a reaction to what was a below par performance.
Is the hope really that because the team is so young that actually they're more likely to be able to bounce back, that there's a sense from young teams sometimes that they can almost blink that stuff away in a way that an older, more experienced team would kind of feel it in the marrow of their bones?
I don't know. There's all kinds of stuff being thrown up in the last couple of days, and we're still kind of baffled by the performance last Sunday. I don't think there was anything unexpected in Galway's performance. Galway have been playing to a particular template all year, and it's working really well for them. And they're counter-attacking at pace. You knew what the strengths were. It's just that they didn't appear to be addressed. You can talk all you want in the days and hours that follow a bad performance, and say you kind of knew in the first 5 minutes and you knew at half time that Kerry were in trouble and this, that, the other thing. But really, they just never seem to get to the pitch of it. They never seem to punch holes. I have a clear picture in my head of David Moran winning a free close-in towards the end of the game, right at the end of the game, when the game was gone from Kerry, and you're thinking, why didn't that happen all day, And maybe that Galway needs to take a lot of credit for that, in the sense that they did neutralise an awful lot of the Kerry threats. But there's more questions and answers floating around this week in Kerry. I accept the argument of youth, and I'll accept that players can't be expected to perform, to a level of consistency when there is such a sprinkling of youth in there. But these are young players as well, have a good bit of experience at Croke Park. And the ball was as wet for Galway as it was for Kerry, just as it was for Kildare and Monaghan before that. They were the conditions, and there are issues that need to be addressed. It's kind of more a toughening of a mindset than anything else, of digging the heels in when you're having those periods in the game when things are going against you, where you're conceding 21-yard frees, and where things aren't exactly happening as you'd expect. Youth is only an excuse that will carry you so far in that regard. It's something that certainly I don't think anybody inside the Kerry dressing room should be using this week. No, for sure. Michael, from Galway's perspective, pre-match you were saying that you thought that the conditions would actually help Galway a little bit, and not to suggest that the conditions were any a massive factor in their favour, but that they were just able to deal with that, and that there was a maturity about their performance and there was a physicality about their performance. It was kind of the perfect coalescence of a bunch of different factors. Yeah, I just think that it did. There's nothing more than every player wants, is the bright sunny day, no little or no wind, to go out and rip it up. And Croke Park is the place that everyone wants to do that. And it was just, I think that would have, might have just suited. It would have suited everyone. It certainly would have suited some of the Galway players as well, and the Kerry players. But I suppose it dampened the day a little bit. And if there was any kind of, Galway seemed to be fairly focused in how they wanted to go about things. And it's another thing that they were able to deal with, and it wasn't going to overly affect them. Like oftentimes this year, especially, Galway have been happy enough to allow the opponent to have the ball, in certain areas of the pitch, and rely on a counter-attack, a turnover and a counter-attack. So, if you're relying on your opponent hanging onto the ball, there's going to be lots of hand passes and kick passes, and just that's with the conditions the way they were. The opportunity was there for more kind of slips and spills and poor hand passes, kick passes. So, small things like that, I think they did work out in Galway's favour on Sunday. This Sunday it could be something different, but it was a factor for them. Yeah, talk to us a little bit about Comer. Obviously, we were all obsessed pre the start of the championship with how big an impact Comer was going to have on the team, but he actually hasn't been the star forward, the star performer so far. And I think that's one of the reasons, if I was a Galway fan, I'd be quite happy about the level of progress that still is to come from the team, because he's sharp, but there's still games where you think, okay, there's still 15-20% extra to come from him. Yeah, I think so. And even, he missed out on a little bit of training coming into the Kerry game with an injury, a shoulder injury. So, that might have been something that he would have needed. Like every player wants, when you're coming into Croke Park, you want your good bank of training inside you, just to feed the confidence. But the biggest thing he's doing, he's attracting the sweeper in every game. And it was no different the last day. It was similar in games through Connacht. And that's just taking the heat off the likes of Ian Burke, the likes of Shane Walsh, and the lads around them. They're getting that little bit more space to do what they can do. And Ian Burke had a phenomenal game last weekend, and he's been super for Galway all year since he kind of broke through to the senior team last year. His first game was in Croke Park against Kerry. So Damien, it's very much benefiting the Galway forwards, and it's creating those spaces. And earlier in the league, he would have won a huge amount of frees, and we even saw it in the league final against Dublin. Now, I suppose teams are doing their utmost not to foul him, because Barry McHugh beforehand during the league, was kicking every dead ball within sight. Barry missed out with injury the last day. Now Shane Walsh is kicking frees left and right, and they're going very well for him. So I think teams are very reluctant to foul. So they're allowing maybe Damien to take the ball on, and his shooting, he had a couple of wides, he did balls short the last day, or he did one wide, one short, I think. So I expect him to kind of, on the balance of play, at some stage he's just going to get his moments, and we'll see him getting the scores that he can. When teams realise that, okay, it's not just a Damien Comer show here, we have to spread our cover around,
look after the other players as well a little bit more. So he's kind of taken one for the team a little bit there, I feel, and hopefully this definitely is huge potential for him to come back in and have more impact for Galway.
The other thing that has been clear is that they're getting impact from the bench. Farley kicks 2 points as a sub and puts pressure to try and get on from the start. But we've seen the bench contribute in all the big games for Galway so far. So, does it feel, as somebody who knows Galway football and this group intimately, that there is genuine strength and depth, or is that just a few key individuals performing slightly above what they're capable of doing? What's the truth about that?
I would feel that it's probably the first year that we can say, and you can look to the bench for a game changer. And Adrian Varley's 2 scores the last day, like something, I think maybe 63rd and 66th minute, they were before the goal, but I think they were the winning of the game. So he made a huge contribution. He kicked a point off the bench against was it Roscommon as well, so Sean Armstrong is another one. He didn't feature the last day, but he made a major contribution in the Connacht final as well. So they have those options there. Paul Conroy's injury is going to eliminate one of those. Like the likes of Peter Cook will probably start now for Paul, and he would have featured in every game, either finishing it or starting the game. And he's made that impact as well. There's another guy there, Kieran Duggan. He got man of the match in the first round against Mayo. Now he picked up a hand injury in club championship 5-6 weeks ago, so he's out for another while. But hopefully he'll be getting back into it, maybe for the Monaghan game, and maybe hopefully for afterwards. So they have personnel there that just it's not a sub for the sake of making a sub. It's someone to go in under clear instructions and to kind of make a difference. And luckily enough for them so far, it's been working really, really well for them.
Dara, I'll ask you about what happens for Kerry this weekend in a minute, but what was your assessment of where Galway are in the overall hierarchy of things? Are they legit All-Ireland contenders after that performance against Kerry last weekend?
They're that bit closer to narrowing the gaps between themselves and Dublin without a shadow of a doubt. I was impressed with them inside in Tralee in the league there this year, where you got to see firsthand the movement and how they close down space and the understanding between the different players. Expected that to be replicated last Sunday, and it was. And as Michael said initially there at the start, you can't underestimate how much this will do for the confidence of players like Shane Walsh, because Shane Walsh being a very good example. I remember watching Shane Walsh 2 years ago against Tipperary and expecting this to be his stage, that he was going to light it up himself and Comer. But in hindsight, they were probably a bit young to do that. Now Shane Walsh has, become a leader in this forward group. Comer was probably a leader, last year, and into the next couple of years will be as well. But I'm just using Shane Walsh as an example. He what that will do for him, for game by game. The fact that he's winning these individual honours as well, as the weeks and months go by into Championship 2018, that'll work miracles for him. And just think of, the likes of the Galway backs that will tie down a certain marquee forward. That's how backs grow. That's how confidence grows. That's how understanding amongst backs grows. And the fact that I think we would be very quick to jump on Galway if they were losing games with the style of football they're playing. The fact that they're not losing games, that they're winning games, it's validation for training ground exercise. It's validation for Kevin Walsh and for his management team that this is a system that works to suit our needs and the type of player we had. You look at the likes of Ian Burke, we've mentioned already. I think the likes of him is absolutely invaluable in any team at the moment where you have not the biggest player in the world, but capable of finding pockets of space where there's congestion. I mean, Andy Moran and Bernard Brogan made brilliant careers of being the guys making the hard sacrificial runs, getting the ball, getting scores, but also creating space for their colleagues. Ian Burke was very, very hard to manage for Kerry last year, equally so last Sunday, where a lot of the focus would have been on Comer. But Burke is popping up in these areas of space, quick hands, releasing a colleague and getting a score, winning frees. And I'm sure the likes of Daniel Finn would appreciate that in Kildare if he had somebody like that around him, as Comer does. David Clifford, who was a big player for Kerry last Sunday, the likes of Gainey and Donoghue alongside him should be looking to make those hard sacrificial runs. So in terms of where Galway are at, they're definitely pushed on. They're still the same team they were before last Sunday, but in terms of confidence, we can't overestimate what it would do for individual players within that group. It's huge for them. Yeah,
I was a bit taken aback when just checking out when Shane Walsh was the PwC Player of the Month. I was just looking at the age, and he turned 25 at the start of June, and that conditioning and that level of experience and that nous, it does take some players a little bit of time. And I know we've already said it's no excuse for the youth of the Kerry team, but that was a huge transition that has happened in the Kerry team. So maybe that balance is just a little bit out of kilter at the moment, and that's why so much is riding on this weekend. So let's talk about this weekend. Significant changes expected in personnel. All sorts of rumours flying at the moment that Donaghy's going to start. There might be a change of goalkeeper. There could be all sorts of differences in the Kerry team that takes the field and that is on the pitch when the ball gets thrown up. What's the most important thing that they do on Sunday against Monaghan that can actually see them recover from last week, Dara?
I think to show initially that they're expecting this level of intensity, because Monaghan are going to bring that. We thought the Monaghan Kildare game was actually a far better game the last day than the Kerry Galway game in terms of basic execution of skills and stuff like that. And Kerry are going to have to match that from the word go. It's not a case of getting into it 5 minutes later and saying, I didn't realise it was going to be this hot and this heavy. They have to anticipate that it's going to be something like that. I'm not so sure that there will be, it's not in the nature of this management group to go radically, and I don't think they have that much wiggle room in terms of being radical about changing personnel. If you believe your best team to be on a given Sunday to be this particular team, it's very hard all of a sudden then in the space of, especially with the Super 8 now, to change it up and to say, well, actually, this is our best team, and this is the horse we're choosing for this course. I mean, these players haven't become bad players overnight. A lot of these lads, it's a mindset thing, I would imagine. There's going to be a certain amount of atonement have to be had. But you're going to have to come to the pitch, and that Monaghan are going to bring to it, especially at home. I mean, Monaghan will be viewing this as a huge, huge opportunity to make their first semi-final in 30 years. First time ever to beat Kerry in Championship. We spoke about what Galway will get from, breaking and knocking those monkeys off their backs like last week, first win in Croke Park and, first time beating Kerry in 53 years. The carrot is huge from a Monaghan point of view as well. So Kerry have to expect to at least match that fervour, that desire. And I expect they will. I expect now this week will have tempered them an awful lot. It's a lot of ugly stuff going on around here in the last week. And, if that doesn't change them, I remember Declan Sullivan being a very young footballer and being hauled ashore below Cork. I was there that day. It was my first year out of football, and he got booed off the field, and it changed him for the rest of his playing career. And I expect this to be a career-defining thing for Kerry lads. The expectation that they brought into the game, it didn't happen for them, and there's no point in playing it down. This is a huge game. They're at a crossroads now, and I'm not so sure radically, radical surgery to the team is going to be the answer. They probably have to in some cases, because Tyg Morley, what we gather, is injured. Killian Young is obviously unavailable after the red card left. So I'd expect maybe one or two changes at the back. My own club mate bring up Belgrade with hauled ashore at half time. Ronan Shannon has been a decent player during the course of the league. There are options there. Mark Griffin might offer something different possibly. But the reality is, it's a lot of the players that started last Sunday need, to alter the mindset a small bit. Or, that's my perception from the outside looking in. I'm not so sure what happened. These good players and you can say all you want about Cork and Clare, and you can talk all you want about the Munster Championship not being quite there in terms of intensity, but these players were running differently. I know it was a different weather conditions, but even down in Cork, that was the cause of encouragement coming out of the game in Páirc Uí Chaoimh, that the lads were literally lifting off the ground, and that just it wasn't there. The rain doesn't stop you lifting off the ground, and it shouldn't have happened last Sunday, and I'm sure the players themselves are the first to acknowledge that. Yeah.
Michael, before I ask you about the Kildare game, what do you rate Kerry's chances against Monaghan this weekend?
Look, it's going to be very difficult. Monaghan have a very good record up there. They'd love to take this opportunity to get their win over Kerry and get their All-Ireland semi-final place. But it's a perfect thing. It's a perfect fixture now for Kerry in a lot of ways to bounce back. To really, the challenge has been laid on for them now, as Dara has highlighted. You can only imagine, how the players felt. They'll be disgusted with the low level of their performance from the weekend. And yeah, it's just that there's scope for them there now to really go at this game. Probably, the personnel changes that they'll have to make. Dara's right. They can't change 7 or 8 new lads. But what they can do is just hit the ground running, and give a better account of themselves than they did. And just play the game on their terms if they can. And whether that's going back to the style of play that they implemented in the Munster Championship, if they can get away with that, they'll be very lucky. I suppose the word of caution is what Monaghan will do and how they'll set up. In some ways, might be very similar to what Galway were doing with the numbers that will probably be back at stages. So those challenges are going to be there again, and it's how, like, I can see in my mind's eye, the times when Kerry kicked the ball inside, tried to hit Guinea or one of the lads inside, but it was kicked into a sweeper, and there might have been a 3-on-1 in Galway's favour. Like, there's no way Kerry are going to do that again this weekend. They're going to have to, just not do it, recycle, get hard runners off the shoulder. So, like, they'll have learned an awful lot from that, and it sets it up for a real cracking game. I think it's going to go to the wire. Do
you play a sweeper on McManus if you're Kerry this week and double down on something that didn't work for you last week, or do you leave him one-on-one and let him kick 15 points and beat you that way?
Yeah, see, I suppose McManus, I think he got 4 the last day, and at times, like, he was tracking back and covering, inside the Kildare or inside his own half back line and full back line. So I was surprised with the amount, with how far out the pitch Kieran McManus was. If he was on my team, I'd want him, coming no further than 30 metres out for the full 70 minutes. So it all depends. If Kieran is coming back out the pitch like that, I think you're going to have to push up and go man for man to a certain extent. Like Monaghan, in fairness, they're pretty lively. They're not over reliant on him anymore, so they have other players to watch. But I for one, I can see them. I'd be expecting them to go back and go man for man at this, and I know putting a high press on and trying to get under the kickouts. They conceded a little bit. Galway got on very well on their own kickouts, and it's always a great platform to build on. And I think Kerry will have to go after that, more so than they did last weekend.
Galway have had Kildare's number in the league final, obviously, in Croke Park and in the league this year. They were close games, but they were close in the way that the Galway-Kerry game was close, that one team was clearly slightly better than the opposition. So, if form holds, and also the relative difference in confidence that you would expect from both camps heading into this weekend, Galway should be able to see Kildare off relatively comfortably this weekend.
Yeah, you'd expect them to get the win. You're right in terms of where the two teams are coming from now. Like that win should do Galway the world of good. And I'm discounting complacency. I'd be shocked to think that they could, complacency could set in after that. Like this, a lot of these Galway lads have gotten hidings, in the near recent past. Kind of going in maybe on days that they thought that, right, this is here for us today, but not showing up. So they should have huge confidence in that regard. And then Kildare are coming on to the end of, I think it might be their 4th week in a row now. And like, I was there when it started, the Newbridge or nowhere, it was, that launch pad, served them so well. They'll probably try and buy into a little bit of that mentality again with the fixture back at home, and with a big loud and the crowd, kind of build the crowd around them again and get a bit of an atmosphere going. But it's going to be a big ask for Kildare. That said, like, it's if Galway could start well, I think they could get on well, and they could see this through. If it's a tight game, then we might be in for something like we've seen in the past between Galway and Kildare, where it just in the past Galway have eked out and got the right side of the results. But Kildare, with the likes of Daniel Flynn, like, he's a huge player. He, like Dara said, he just needs someone with him there to offer something different, or to not always have to look at Daniel Flynn for the first ball. If you could have Daniel Flynn coming off a player, I think he's most dangerous when has the ball in hand and he's facing the goal. When he's winning the ball and he's facing his own goal, then he's not directly as dangerous. No, he has he's a great ability to get around a lad, and he's got strength and power. So if they could get more runners off him, Kildare would be very dangerous. And that's something that they did against Mayo. They just had more runners coming through the middle third of the pitch. They were fresh, they were up for it. That wasn't the case in Croke Park the last day. It was much more, the option wasn't there to kick it in and get someone flying off the shoulder. So if that's the 4th week in a row, that's our 4th week in a row, the legs are getting heavy, then that's going to come against them. Like, they have a bench and they've used it quite well. But they're going to have to do that again, and I think it's the makings of a good game. But I would expect Galway to be coming through this one, with 3 or 4 points to spare.
Dara, last one on this for you. We were talking a little bit earlier on about this, and just made the point that it wasn't do or die for Kildare last week, whereas the previous weeks when they had known very clearly what the job was and what the outcome had to be, it seemed like there was a much clearer unity of purpose. And my hope as a Kildare supporter this week is that actually, because it's do or die again, that they will just decide to go, okay, we have to channel back that energy that was like, the opposition's goal is the target and we're not going to stop it until we get there, which was clear in the Mayo game, it was clear in the Fermanagh game after that as well. So that's my hope that I'm clinging to as a Kildare supporter, that might give them an opportunity to overturn Galway this weekend.
It might, but it's dependent on Galway's mindset, really. I think Galway are the superior team here. I think the one thing that we would have mentioned, and the one word we would have mentioned in association with Kildare ahead of last Sunday's game, was momentum. They had that bit of wind in their sails. Now it's a bit knocked out of them. Some of the decision-making the last day on the field by some of their better players, and I would go along with Mike. I actually think Daniel Flynn needs to be running at lads, especially with the new black card rules. Needs to be just channeling his runs from deeper, and he might be best helped by being played further out the field because he's such an explosive, dynamic player. But that momentum has been taken away from them now. They've had the wind taken out of their sails, and I know the venue is there for them, and it's their patch, and it's something worth defending, of course. But I just think in situations like that where you have two reasonably evenly matched teams, it depends on the mindset of the team that that are coming off the back of a big win, and in this case, that's Galway. Kildare will be fit, and they'll be strong, and they'll be athletic, and but it's just it might be their decision making that might lead them down. It certainly did the last day. Where there was a few kick passes instead of fist passes and basic stuff like that didn't help them. And I expect the same thing. I expect Galway just to be too cold and too ruthless to pass up a chance of winning another game away from home.
Lads, great stuff. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. Cheers.
Thanks, sir.
Cheers.
There with us, both those games are live this weekend. Kildare against Galway is a 2 o'clock throw in. Monaghan against Kerry throws in at 4 o'clock.